to The Launch, where we have chosen to be leaders of our lives, and collectively we desire to help people be the best you can possibly be.
And what you've done with your life thus far, is it giving you what you want? Is it giving you what you want? When you look toward the future, when you look at all that's going on out here, is there some place within yourself you say, hey, I know I need to be out there in that arena. I know I can do more than what I've been doing. I know there's some great music that I have within me that I haven't brought out here yet. Is that something that you begin to look at?
Can I have the attention of all those who are hearing me? In the words of the great Muhammad Ali, I want to challenge you to think differently. Be confident in yourself.
I'm your host, Keesha Barnett. Here I have Zavier, Quin, Gant, and James Walker. Today's topic is one of those topics that's controversial, it's emotional, it's about racism. So I want to first put our disclaimer out there that this is strictly from our perspective. Our goal today is to talk about and to shine a light on the solutions to this massive problem that is plaguing our country. So the first thing I want to ask, guys, what do you think keeps racism going today?
I would say it can't be like one single thing that we can say that this one singular thing is what keeps racism going. I think as a country, like you said, it's plaguing our country. There's so many things that keeps us going from us not lack of knowledge. I think is the one and most important thing is that we just don't know enough about each other's culture, and that's pretty much the issue. Is we don't really understand each other.
Do you think people want to know?
No. I think we're so caught up in Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, anything that don't matter. Like Cat Williams getting beat up by or wrestling with a 17-year-old. That's what we're concerned about. We're not really concerned about real things that's going on. We're so caught up in our phones and ain't nothing important on it.
No, I mean, obviously racism is definitely, like you said, a huge issue. As far as what keeps it going, I mean, I think it's just about just control at the end of the day. Certain people want to be in control and limit and dictate other situations. Of course, our culture being one that doesn't really have the history or the foundation, like you said, for us to go out there and learn where we're from and what we've gone through. And it's kind of limited information out there, so you really have to go seek it. They're not just giving it away. So I think, like you said, just information definitely being a big deal, and in some aspects, just control. That's what I would say.
And to piggyback on what he's talking about, information, like they kept, in slavery, they took books away from us, right? And now we have books that are available to us and we still don't read.
Yeah.
And so we keep ourselves enslaved by mental slavery, by not having the information. And it's readily available. We so caught up on stupid stuff.
Yeah, I think one other thing that kind of keeps it going, not just us living our everyday lives that keeps it going, but I think a lot of times too, have to thank the media for keeping it going. Because a lot of times we are tuned in. For most people, they're tuned into the television. So within what the television provides, it provides a lot of division. And racism is one of the things people look at. So anything that happens on TV that they're seeing, that's a real good avenue to say that, you really wouldn't notice a lot of things that has to do with racism if you didn't watch a lot of TV. We deal with it in our everyday lives a lot of times, but for the majority, a lot of our negative situations in life comes from the media.
Absolutely. They show, what they show in black communities on TV is totally not what's going on. That's just what we see on TV. And the Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, they all talk about the media, way before. And that's just we need to turn the TV off. Turn it off, find something else to do. Black families watch 8 to 9 hours a day of television. If it's not Facebook, social media, PlayStation, 8 to 9 hours a day. So, that's what keeps it going.
And one thing, like I noticed, that was really, really deep. Had never been to the Million Man March until this past year, and I had never seen that many different diversities of black people in one collective situation in a positive setting with no issues, and there was no media coverage. And things like that that how they intentionally dictate what we see, and it's always a negative agenda. And it's just really just a setup, in my personal opinion, to push the ultimate agenda to again just maintain control. So that's how I see it.
So that's a higher up thing.
Agreed.
About control.
Of course.
Well, it's money. Yeah, it all comes from money. Everything stems from money. Everything is about money. If you go to the source, it's always going to be money. Control comes from people with money. You can't control anything if you don't have money.
Yeah.
How do we combat against that? Because sometimes we can come off as militant if we're just trying to educate ourselves and know our culture and we're stressing Black power. That doesn't mean we're against any other power.
Absolutely.
We're just standing on our power.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely not anti-white. So many people
Right.
that are white have helped me become the man I am today. So definitely not anti-white. It's pro-black though. But they try in the media to try to turn pro-black into anti-white. Right. And it's a good against evil thing, not a black and against white thing. Period.
But the tripped out part is typically a whole lot of other races really mimic our Black power.
Yeah.
That's the tripped out part.
Yeah.
I agree. We got to, first and foremost, if you say just an aspect, how do we remedy that? Like I said, for one, just learning to believe in ourselves. Taking pride again in ourselves, taking pride in who we are naturally. Some of the subjects that we've already discussed about, and just women and how we discuss some of the things that we go through because of watching television and wanting to fit in with the trends and all that type of stuff. And those things have really hindered us mentally to following and seeking out things that have just really blinded us. And like I said, we just only pay attention. Some of us don't believe it's real any longer. Others are just in denial. But at the end of the day, just falling back in love with who we are culturally, individually, and then learning to teach our children to feel the same way.
I really ask you this, do you really think we know our culture?
We're learning our culture. And now, like the man said, we have more information accessible to us now than ever. But it's just so easy to watch Housewives of Atlanta and all these other just gimmicky shows. I mean, there's tons of programs to watch, so, it just becomes really easy.
I don't think for the majority, people are really trying to learn the culture. For the majority, other than Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, all the people we've learned the last 30, 40 years, is the only culture that we know as a Black society.
Right.
And it's partially because the school system really don't teach any other thing, like who invented the first signal light. They don't, they just don't teach that there are a lot of different African Americans out there that have really done a lot of different things other than those four. They just don't. We just as a people don't do the research, and I hadn't did the research. A lot of things that I've learned now is either that I've seen something circled through Facebook, which I know Facebook we shouldn't be on, but I have seen a lot of things circled through Facebook that helps me to say, dang, because I never knew about the Black Wall Street situation.
Right. But you know what, to our defense too, I think though, that like if you look at Asian culture, you look at Hispanic culture, typically when they come over here, they function like they did when they were in Mexico, New Mexico, from wherever they came from.
Right.
But with us, we don't have that.
Right.
They say we're African American, but I ain't never been to Africa. I definitely want to go. But the culture that we know is right here.
Right. I'm American. I'm not African American.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And if you talk to a white person, they're American. They're not Caucasian American, or white American. They're American. Anglo American. They're American. So I'm not African American. I'm American. I don't like a lot of people call me that. Or minority. The root word to minority is minor. So don't call me minor. I'm not less than anybody. And so we have to stop calling ourselves that. So you keep calling yourself minor, you're gonna be minor.
Right.
So I think it, like you said, it comes from us, understanding our culture, learning our culture, and not listening to Harriet Tubman and all the things that they taught us in school and depending on the school system.
Don't say don't listen to Harriet Tubman.
Well, I'm not saying not listen to Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman did a lot of good stuff. But we also didn't learn that Harriet Tubman was in Canada.
Yeah.
As you said, she went north in the school I was at. They didn't say she was in Canada.
New York anyway.
Yeah, where is north?
Right.
And so we can't depend on the school system. We have to read the information for ourselves. And that's where we struggle, is reading. Who said it best? If you want to hide something from a Negro,
Put it in a book.
put it in a book.
Yeah.
How sad and true that really is.
Unfortunately.
A great program that was brought to my attention by Zavier that I recommend everybody go out there and check out. It's on YouTube, fully accessible, totally free of charge. It's called African American, Many Rivers to Cross. A great program, really dictates the history of our culture, things that they just don't touch bases on, that you're not going to find in the average American literature books in your schools or really anywhere that I've seen. So I thought it was just a really great documentary that really touched on our history in a whole nother way. So I definitely recommend that.
Yeah, and listen to it, like he said. Go watch it. Don't say that. Don't
It ain't
listen.
even in the book. Go watch it.
You gotta watch it. You ain't gotta read it.
You ain't gotta read it. So we're gonna take a break. We'll be back. We got more to cover. Stay tuned.
And
dreams are good for nothing if you can't show respect. If you send out negativity, the negative is what you'll get. Start chasing what you love, give it your blood and tears. Don't be afraid to get rejected, start facing your fears. And I recommend that you understand in your grand plan that it can't stand in this wicked land without holding on to his unchanging hand. Once you connect, he'll show you your gift, you must sharpen your tools. No more sitting up wasting time, no more hanging with fools.
See, I say if you look at your life, and if you're not getting what you want.
We are back. Welcome to the launch. So y'all, we fought to get segregation in our schools. We fought so that we could have equality in our schools. But what you really think about that? I mean, we wanted to go over there, and my thought was, I think we wanted better. We thought that was better. They had better books, they had better education, but was it better?
Yes.
Yes.
It was better for it as wanting better books.
Mhm.
I mean, you at a school where you don't have books, you don't have computers, you don't have, you know, all the utensils that you need
Right.
in order to get a good education. So that was one of the main reasons why probably African Americans want to join or be in the better schools, the better hospitals and things of that nature. I mean, that goes back to even why we even went over there, because we can have the same things in our community, but we don't. And we don't because we as a people haven't made that decision to just say, well, let me go down here and do what I got to do in order to make sure that my community has all the books, the schools have all the books they need, the neighborhoods need to look the way they need to, look. So it kind of, I can understand them want to go to the other community there, but at the same time, we as people need to try to still fight for those same things in our community.
Because the most profitable place in America is the black church. Period. So if we have the money, so it ain't like it's a lack of resources, it's a lack of want to, it's a lack of initiative, like he's saying. And we wanted to go over there because they had better books and all that, but the money was in our community and we could have bought our own books, we could have built our own schools. But we chose not to based on the fact that we wanted to have segregation, we wanted to be part of something that didn't want us.
But could we do that back then when it started?
I don't know. I wasn't there. I wasn't there. I like when he was talking about where we are now.
Right,
I know we can now.
Right.
I know we can now because I see the money that's flowing through all these churches. And we come in on Sunday and then what are we doing Monday through Friday?
Right.
Choir practice?
I think you could, but I think you could, or I think they probably wanted to, but they couldn't back then. Because you got to figure back at that point in time, you going in trying to talk to the government, the city, whatever, and knowing how white supremacy was at that time, they wasn't going to really allow that. And I think that's how African Americans got off track and saying that, well, if I can't get them to do what I want them to do in my community, so we make money now, we'll just go move out to where it's at.
And we still do that.
Yeah, and we still do that till, today.
But I think that was a necessary evil, as crazy as this may sound, because we needed to understand their culture as much as they needed to understand ours. Like, as long as we were separate, it was going to always be issues. It was going to always be, well, them versus us. You know what I mean? And I mean, the reason people fear stuff is because they don't understand it. You know what I'm saying? So they needed to understand certain things about us, and we also needed to understand a little bit more about their world. At the same time, we compromised too much of our world to accommodate that life, and then we forgot about our world and our people in the process of learning about their situation. So that still falls on us. That's still not, we can't really blame white supremacy entirely for what our leaders, so to speak, have done in the aspect of just really going back and educating the people who didn't get opportunity or couldn't afford to move to the nicer neighborhoods to go to the more expensive schools and stuff like that. So,
Absolutely. And what are those schools teaching us?
You said they need to understand us and we need to understand
Well, I feel like at the end of the day, with America being as diverse as it is, we gotta mix. There's no way we can continue to have color lines.
I think we always mixed, but I think that we have always understood their side, but I don't think that they have always understood our side.
I don't agree.
Because we have always been a part of their society.
But not on an equal level, not on an equal playing field. You can't understand something from the field looking at somebody in the skybox, and we've never been in the skybox. Like, there's no way we could really relate to any of that, and we've never experienced it. So until we got an opportunity to experience that end, and then also allow them to come down on this end, you know, even though there, of course, were people already down there, they were in the trenches, you know what I mean, they were poor whites since the beginning of America,
Right.
you know what I mean? So naturally, we had poverty amongst the white community, but even when you had rich blacks, I mean, they were dictated by white power, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, they were only allowed to do so much. And even then, I mean, if they decided to seize your property at that time, I mean, what could you do? The literal state would get together and decide and declare and make a law, literally write a law. Stating that you can't do it. Well, even, I mean, just talking about the whole concept of when we decided to integrate, you know what I mean, and become together. Like, I just think, ultimately what God was doing, because you got to get past man, you know? What God was doing was creating a situation where all his people had the opportunity to interact and basically share our differences. So, I mean, we needed that. I mean, to be honest with you, I wouldn't want to be anywhere where it's all black. No more than I think white people should want to be somewhere where it's all white. You know what I mean? So we need our differences, as crazy as that may sound, in order to really make our country what it is.
And to say that they didn't understand us is they did. The Willie Lynch side, they did understand us.
Better than we understand
exactly what we needed to, what they needed to do to control us, and they still do. They know exactly how to portray stuff in the media to control us. They know exactly how to teach, how to give us a month in February.
But I think when he says to know us, is not to know us to manipulate us.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? It's
Exactly.
to know someone is, I don't want to get to know you so I can manipulate you to do what I want you to do because I'm fearful
Yeah.
or I just want control.
Yeah.
That's not knowing us.
But we gotta know us.
Yeah.
So you
Right.
can't be. So you gotta know you, so you don't have the opportunity to be manipulated.
Mhm.
You can only be manipulated if you don't understand you.
Right.
So keep yourself from being manipulated.
But they got it even back in slave days. I mean, like I said, one of the things that was really difficult for slave masters to understand even then, how blacks could work all day in the hot sun in little death traps, and at the end of the day still rejoice, like, you know, just glad to be off, glad to be alive, glad to celebrate the situation of unity and coming together in the slave quarter, still listen to music to the point where they would leave the master's house to go out there in the slave quarters to try to understand, you know what I mean? So even then, they didn't totally get it, and even the Willie Lynch concept, that was a manuscript to dictate. So they didn't understand us, they knew how to control a situation and create a slave,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So, but we never, even back then, we always knew that we were humans. And at the end of the day, we were going to eventually break out of that situation, whether physically, violently, or peacefully, however, whatever it took.
And I always fought. Like they don't teach that in Black history, but it was a fight.
Right.
There was a bunch of people who died trying to keep people in slavery because nobody's built like that. God didn't create those type of people.
Right.
He created people like we know who you are. You know who you are. Like your soul is not going to keep lying to you.
Exactly.
Evil might lie to you, but your soul ain't gonna lie to you.
Right. And you talk about being happiness and joy. We were talking about that and how as much joy as the slaves had, the masters, they were not happy. They didn't have any joy.
Yeah.
Because that's stealing from you. What we say, you can't get joy when your whole situation is wrong. It's built on evil.
Yeah.
You can't have that.
Yeah.
You reap what you sow every
Right.
single time.
Period.
Every single
And that's
time.
the law of the universe.
Yeah.
That's colorblind. So it's all about how you play it. So evil is evil is evil is evil at the end of the day. And they knew that they were wrong. I mean, ultimately, I
I don't know if they knew if they was wrong.
Hey,
Of course.
I don't know. My thing is if you know that you're wrong, so if they know that they're wrong, then you got to ask yourself, then why would they make the decisions that they were made?
Fear.
Because
Money,
in control.
control, fear, all the things profit.
You know you're wrong.
You're wrong. You know you're wrong. There's no way you can not.
so you know
That's why they
you're
have
wrong.
no joy.
So you know you're wrong. Then I don't know.
I know you're wrong when
with
you have a
that
slave
situation.
ship and you come over with a bunch of women and you sleep.
But they do this year. They do this for 300 years.
But you know you're evil. But you know you're evil.
Evil is
You know you're
So
evil.
they just enjoy
Right.
the evil.
Exactly. And there are some people that
What
actually
you say, it comes down to right and wrong.
Good and
Yeah.
evil.
Good and evil.
It's simple.
not white or black at all.
I don't know. That's just.
It's really
But then
rich
it's
and
like-
poor.
Okay, wait. We gotta take a break. We gotta come back to that. Do not stop thinking on that. We'll be right back.
Now understand, I feel your pain here in our time of need. And we can't be afraid to change, y'all, cause that's guaranteed. Where in the world are we really safe if we only plant the seeds of children who love to hate based on race, lust, envy, and greed? False prophets with false doctrine are spreading like weeds. Building crippled Superman, shout out Christopher Reeves. No disrespect, not trying to offend, I'm just speaking the truth. What good is a future full of pollution and misguided youth? He said to place my faith in him and not Apple or Droid. And that faith without any work is just pointless and void. Now when I wake, said I
Guys,
was
we got back. We're gonna jump back in there because James was over there looking passionate about what he was talking about. Shoot. James was like, you don't understand. They should know. I don't know. They know.
I mean, if you are filled with that much hatred, because when you look at the documentaries, I mean, how can you bring your whole family, kids and everything, to a lynching, to see somebody burned? I mean, that's just a different type of evil to me.
It is.
I mean, I just don't think you really, I think you are so far gone to the point that there's almost no return for you. That's the type of hatred that, who experienced that type of hatred?
Evil has no boundaries.
None.
That's what we have to understand.
Yeah.
Like it has no boundaries. It'll come through your mama.
I get that.
It'll come through your sister.
I get that.
And it's still prevalent today.
Yeah.
It's just done in a different way. Because I think about when you talk about, I was on Facebook and I saw the black tan. I almost flipped out. I was like, now they got a spray to turn you black. I was a little confused.
Yeah. Right. They did that a long time ago. Though. It's blackface.
See, that's my thing. Like, to be that, if you say hateful, you know what I mean, but ultimately be that envious to want to replicate.
That's what I'm talking
Envious,
about.
okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they were in my personal opinion, I wasn't there. Like I said, we're just talking from our perspective. I think they were infatuated with it. They were infatuated with the athleticism. They were infatuated with the thickness and the voluptuousness of a woman, a black woman. And then they in some aspects, were even kind of intimidated with the strength and the fact that he could be out in that sun like that all day and work like that all day. They couldn't fathom that. I mean, we know, and nothing against Caucasian humans, but at the end of the day, we understand that the sun just has a different effect. You know what I mean? With us being from where we're from. So, it is what it is as far as the laws of nature and us as human beings. Same token, I mean, it is kind of insane for you to invite your child to a lynching and that be something that's just like a barbecue. But, they actually really convinced themselves that we were animals.
Yeah.
And you say that they was infatuated, and I guess this goes back to saying that, how you don't know, because ultimately they killed off all the weaker African Americans and only kept all the stronger.
Actually,
that's what we are breeding.
They did the opposite.
No, they killed the strong ones
and kept the weaker ones, and
strong ones fight back.
Well, he means strong and build.
Yeah,
them are the ones they killed.
Now they kept a lot of them too.
Well, they bred them until they start fighting back.
Right.
They keep you until you start fighting back.
Yeah.
Right, but for most part, that's what they maybe they didn't know, but that's what they was breeding.
What they still do.
They knew exactly what they were doing. When they came in and they took your name and they took your family heritage and they literally brought the women out with the children and they took the strongest buck, as they called you at that time, and they literally tarred, feathered, racked you and made a complete public example, which was all the lynchings were about. Public examples to instill fear, to have control, to let you know your limitations on this soil here on our land. This is our country, this is our dream, this is our vision. As white America was branching off from England and the control of the king in England, you know what I mean? So we wanted to have our own country, our own beliefs, and you're not a part of that, and if you are going to be a part of that, it's going to be under our control. And that's really what they believed. It's not so much that they didn't understand what they were doing was evil, it was just that they believed that it was a necessary evil to get where they were trying to go as far as the promised land that they were promised as far as what they created. So that was really what that was.
But if evil understands that it's evil, then it'll turn good though. So of course they didn't understand that they were evil until somebody brings good into the situation. Until you shine light on dark, you don't know that you're dark. So you can't kill darkness with darkness. You have to shine light on the situation. So of course they didn't know that they were evil. If they knew that they were evil, then evil wouldn't have anything to work with. So people think they're right. They really think that this is the way that you're supposed to live, because that's how evil controls your mind.
I'm gonna take a turn. How do you think that affected the interaction amongst the blacks?
Separation. I mean, you already know the bright skin, fair skin, dark skin situation. House slave to the actual field Negro. I mean, we got that concept to divide us. I mean, same thing they're doing today.
Right.
as long as we're fighting amongst each other, they don't have to fight us. You know, and God forbid we unite, because we've seen that happen throughout the history of American culture. So God forbid we come together and actually be intelligent, start reading and researching and coming into our own and developing our own setup, like God forbid, because that's too much of a threat to the agenda, you know?
But how deep is that? Because that's really something. I mean, you have families where they have a light-skinned sister and a dark-skinned sister, and the lighter skin was treated better. I mean, even today.
I think back then, if you were lighter skinned, you did get treated the same.
It's like that now.
Yeah, I mean, even lighter skin, you just, even in the movies, you see most of the kids they use, it's all the mixed kids with the, you know, natural, good hair.
Good hair.
Like that. That's how it was growing up. Even for me, as growing up, you the dark. I mean, you know, I'll be sure made it good for, you know, all the light skinned brothers until Western Sight came out. And Western Sight showed up, then okay, the game switched a little bit. But that just goes back to show you back then. That, I mean, if you was light skinned because that you perceived to be better, then you got all the perks for that.
Because light-skinned people can pass as white sometimes, and they can get on the bus and pretend, and they can get jobs and pretend. There's a lot of black men who look white who got jobs because they look white until somebody found out they was black and then they get fired. So it's still like that now.
Yeah, and it was less fear.
Yeah. See, black is the only color that can create every other color.
Right.
So even in Africa, before we integrated and I guess whites came and we mixed breed and all that type of stuff, there was still albinos that were born of two completely dark-skinned individuals. So I mean, we've always had different complexions and shades of black since the beginning of black, however far that origin goes, you know. So I mean, it is what it is as far as them doing that. But as far as like American culture goes, like none of us are 100% at this stage.
Right.
You know?
So because we like just a big old gumbo pie.
Exactly.
So there really can't be a black-white movement.
Exactly.
It's a rich poor thing. It's not, and it's a lot of white people who are locked up in jail right now for 100 years for selling methamphetamine, and it used to be crack cocaine.
Yeah.
And so it used to be a black thing because black people were the ones selling crack, and white people were the ones selling cocaine. And so it was a 100-to-1 sentence. Now cocaine, now it's not crack anymore, it's meth. So now they locking, you know, poor white people up for 100 years for selling something too. So it's a rich poor thing, and that's what they have to understand, is that we're on the same side. And you're on the same side, we all fighting the same enemy.
Yeah, and he's out to destroy us all, ultimately.
Right.
Our planet, our world, our future.
Good confusion. Us talking about racism, and having to have a whole show about racism.
Right.
Because it's an issue.
Because it's an issue.
Right, it's an everyday issue. So how do you feel like that affects you day to day, like in business?
Racism affects you day to day.
Yeah.
Everything.
You can, as a black man, depending on who's on the other side, when you try to go get a loan.
He is chocolate.
He is chocolate.
Yeah.
Like a
Chocolate?
You'll feel Libra.
Yeah, that's why I feel like y'all say, there's all different kind of babies. You know, I got white kids, I got some albinos, I'm just tripping. But still, I'm just going to say, on the business side, it does affect you because,
Of course.
you know, you go in there and try to get a loan or something just because you are who you are, you may not get that loan. If you do, your credentials have to be
Outstanding.
It has to be outstanding.
And even then,
In regards to the next person, I mean, you have to probably have all 800 credit score and things of that nature. Where necessarily, like I sat with people where he said, he just talking to me. We became cool, and he's a white guy, and he just talking. He was like, "Yeah, I went into my bank. Friend of mine worked there, and you know, I just needed a loan, and you know, he gave me that so I can start this project without any." Didn't check his credentials, nothing, but just on the fact that, you know, here, you can have that. But a lot of times that, you know, we don't get that same, we don't get that same.
they even have you mark those personal racial boxes to predetermine your interest rates.
Yeah.
So we know that they use that as an opportunity to dictate what we're allowed to have and how far we're allowed to go, especially in business.
And we understand that, so you will go get a white man in business and send him and go get him to do the paperwork. Plenty of times. we get a black woman, take you and get you to do it because you're less intimidating. We understand the business.
Man, today we had a great show. We talked about truth. We talked about racism. We talked about some things that were touchy. It's from our perspective, but it's our truth. So, thank you for tuning in. We got chocolate, caramel macchiato, caramel latte, and I am Karen.
Latte.
We are the lunch.
I like that. That was good.
Now understand, I feel your pain here in our time of need. And we can't be afraid to change, y'all, cause that's guaranteed. Where in the world are we really safe if we only plant the seeds of children who love to hate based on race, lust, envy, and greed? False prophets with false doctrine are spreading like weeds. Building crippled Superman, shout out Christopher Reeves.